So guys, welcome to my workshop. Now, in today's video, you've clicked on this video because you have a lawnmower and you want to get it running. Now, so I have a bit of a checklist here, but also I'm going to start writing down a couple of other things that is important with lawnmowers. So guys, these are 4 things, that's my 4 simple steps on getting a lawnmower and getting a good lawnmower and getting it to work. So first and foremost is appearance. Is it all mangly? Is there parts hanging off it? Is it all well suited and booted? So as you can see here, I have a lawnmower, for example. I know the top cover is off with the pull cord. I'm just working on some of the electrical system, but as you can see in front of me, it's very good condition. It's not immaculate because there is rust all around. And stuff, and the handlebars are slightly bent, which is a pity. I'll try and sort that thing out. But first of all, it's the wheels. Now, wheels will tell you a lot. It's kind of like an hour's clock on a tractor or a mileage counter in a car. The wheels will tell you how much work this engine or this lawnmower has done. Now, if these wheels are hanging off this lawnmower, it'll also tell you that whoever was using it was just dogging it around, and if they were dogging the lawnmower around, they're hardly going to be working or maintaining the engine. So, foremost, if the wheels are in bad condition, your engine's not going to be in much good condition. But it's still, don't judge a book by its cover. It still could be good. So you don't rule it out, but it could be a good indicator. So we'll move on. Your engine, if say you want to take the engine out of a lawnmower, like if the deck is completely compromised, you can still take the engine out of it and use it in something else, but that's fair enough. So if you're just want to look for a good engine, then you can keep going. But if you're not looking, if you want to look for a good lawnmower and not take anything off it, you want to keep it good, always just look for a good decent deck. Always look for, I think aluminium decks are better, to be honest. I've a good few cast iron. They're cheaper than the aluminium, but they rust, and you'll have to make sure that there's not holes and stuff like in them. This one has rust. It's not bad. I've seen worse. I've seen a lot worse where there was just a big hole in the side here. That's when you're not going to be able to use this lawnmower because the engine will rattle and it'll just break your heart. What appearance was this like? So this particular engine, for example, the tank was hanging off the back, but everything else was pretty much in all right tight condition, because it will tell you if someone has been at it before and has just said, look, it's not a great engine, and they threw it in a skip. And especially, you have to know where you're getting your lawnmower. If you're getting a lawnmower off a friend and stuff, always quiz them about them. They will tell you. If they're not honest, I wouldn't necessarily go near the lawnmower, because if they're not honest, just don't go near people that are not honest. I wouldn't trust them. They'll be selling you a piece of shit, and you don't want that. They're hard. It's hard earned money these days, so you want a good machine. So I usually get most of my lawnmowers off people I know, just word them out. But some of them I did get in the dump. Now, the dump where I got them, these lawnmowers I got them in the intention of getting parts off them, not to run them as full ones like this one. Even this, I actually got this from the dump too. But believe it or not, it was just, don't be going in with big expectations that it's going to be a great engine, because it's not there for a good, it has to be there for a good reason, or it could be just someone cleaning it out. Anyway, they're reliable engines. There's very little that can go wrong with them. So, right, appearance. So if she has a good appearance, and if it's looking good, she's a half decent deck, the engine doesn't look like it's been tampered with, you're good to go. But if it has been tampered with, like if it's, you just have your caution. You can still be fine, but don't say me I didn't warn you. So red flag for that one. But if it's a good one like this, perfect job. So appearance. So next thing is your engine free. Now, to test if your engine is free, there's a handle, it's your stop handle. Sometimes there are bars, usually. You just hold that back. You tie it back. Always disconnect your spark plug lead. And I always just tuck it in out of the way over here. because there's no way that will jump to here, because you don't want your engine running when you don't want it. So all you're checking is the engine is free. So as you can see on this engine, it's perfect. Now I can feel there that is not bad. That's because there's compression. But also you look at your fluids. Now your fluids are really important, and not as much as fuel, but oil. Oil is really important. So as you can see in this one, you can see there's oil in that. There's not a whole lot, to be honest, and that's because there was feck all in it to begin with. But if I just put that back in, some of them are screw-ins, some of them are not, some of them have markers. So then you just take that out again. So if your lawnmower has oil in it, that's a good sign. Now there's very little oil in it. Usually there should be a lot more oil than that. So if you want to go forward with it, I recommend, if there's no oil in it and the engine is not turning over, red flag. That means your engine has been seized from the lack of oil. But if there's oil in it, and always retest it, because it can happen, because if it's not been touched, the oil stick will give you a false reading. You always just dip it twice or 3 times to get a good so you know what's actually on inside your engine. I top it up with oil. I always use second-hand oil, any oil really. Lawnmower oil is cheap. I'm just using this type of oil. It is actually good oil. It's only came out of a lawnmower. It was in a lawnmower for a year, and I just drained it, and I had a lot of it left over. So, but you can use genuine Briggs & Stratton oil, but I recommend, if you want to just not spend too much money on something, especially if you don't know if it's any good, just put in just cheaper, but make sure it's Briggs & Stratton, or it's lawnmower oil. Don't put anything else in it. So you top that up. That's grand. The engine's turning over. Great stuff. Next thing, your spark plug. Now your spark plug would tell a lot about your lawnmower. It will tell you secrets that no one else would. So I've just went ahead and took the spark plug out of the lawnmower. Spark plug tells a lot. So if there is a bit of carbon, so that black stuff is carbon, can be a little bit oil on it, that's alright. But if this thing is wringing wet with oil, or even the smell of them, if it can smell stale petrol, that's fair enough, because that's where it comes from. But you always just make sure that's cleaned. See that the little fella here, that little lad in the middle, which is grey, make sure that's not touching. And but there has to be a certain gap in between them for it to work. But that gap is pretty okay. That's fine. That's not a bad spark plug, but sometimes I just end up replacing them for good practice, because there's dampness in them as well. So if your lawnmower's obviously been outside, I always find a good remedy, if it's not sparking, even though there's good current, the spark plug could be the cause. I would stick a new spark plug on it. But if you just want to try the original one, because the original one sometimes can be even better than the new one, you heat it up with a lighter, or just a small bit of flame. Be careful with it. Just you burn off, heat it up a little bit. Just you're heating up this part and here, and then you can clean it off with a wire brush. You'll have it nice and cleaned, and it'll be nice and dry, and it won't be damp. So then you just put it back in, connect up your wire, your lead again, and away she'll hopefully go for you. But if it still doesn't go, you're better off checking for spark first. So that's if it's good practice. So the biggest thing is to check for spark. If you have no spark, you're no go. So we're going to try it now, and hopefully I'll get it on camera. So if you want to test for spark, always make sure you're putting the spark plug on something metal. So just there is fine. And what you're really concentrating on is to look at the gap between the little grey fella, as I said, and so I always just put a bit of shadow like that. It always makes it easier to see it. You can use a friend to turn over your engine, make sure it's just, spark plug's not gonna run because it's outside. But yeah, so I'm going to show you what you're looking for. See See that light? There's again. That is your spark. And once you see that, I hear people say about flames and oh, it has to be a certain colour and stuff, which is probably true in some spark plugs, but once there's a light there, you're laughing. But if there's nothing there, there's a few things that could be the cause. It could be that the spark plug is compromised and needs to be replaced. It could be the ammeter, but more than likely it could be the air gap. If there's rust, some people say it's not a thing, but sometimes I find it improves your spark. So you have to loosen off these 2 bolts, and you clean in here these 2 fellas here, and once you have them cleaned, you can go ahead and refit them. So this is just another ammeter I'm talking about. So you're just cleaning the 2 connections either side. As you can see on this one, it's all rusty, and that's because I didn't want to use it. It was compromised. There was things wrong with it. Yeah, you clean that, you put it back on. Try it again. Make sure you always put a piece of card. I always use a piece of card, and you put a piece of guard, there. So all I've done is just loosen these 2 bolts off. Sometimes you have to take them completely off. You can't really kind of make sure because there's always a wire connected to these, so you always disconnect or just be careful. You don't really have to take it anywhere anyway, so you just pop it off, clean it, position it back on, make sure you put the right side out. I always find maybe videoing what you're doing, not to do it on YouTube, put it on YouTube, but on certain things, if you want to know how to put some things back together, it's always good to do some videos. So some people use feeler gauges. I've used feeler gauges. They do work, but if you don't have a feeler gauge, you can just use a piece of card. So as you can see, I put a piece of card. It's thin enough, and you just put it between this and the flywheel. You spin the flywheel around until the magnet will actually catch the ammeter, and they want to come closer, but also obviously this is stopping it. So that's how you get your gap. Then all you have to do is tighten this fella up, tighten these 2 bolts up, take your card out, and there's your your air gap set again. But also there's a wire that runs from here back to the brake. Now sometimes it might be earthing, and if it is, you just have to adjust your brake, and that'll solve your problem. So once you have your spark, job's a good one. Also, one other thing, so these are your springs for a carburetor. These are very important. It determines how well your engine runs. Now, as you can see on these, they're in very good condition. Springs aren't bent or anything. But if the springs on the lawnmower are all over the place, or even broken, you'll have to. It's a horrible job trying to get them working. So I never bother with a lawnmower that has bad springs. But when they have good springs, you're on a winner. So yeah, if there's bad springs, red flag. So then you just go ahead, you put your spark plug back in where it should be. You put a bit of fuel in your tank. You can turn it up, pull it over a few times. Usually if there's a throttle on it, always open the throttle to full. It's the amount of fuel that's going into your carburetor. Eventually she will start, it'll run. Don't be alarmed if the engine needs to be cleaned around. If it's all webs and dirt and leaves and grass and stuff, clean it, because it's an air-cooled engine. These fins along here, these should not be blocked, otherwise it will generate heat, and it could start catching fire. So so I had to do this one, just clean it all down, and it's okay. It won't do any harm. But then when you have a throttle, when it's just fully on, it will start up, it will rev real hard, so you always just bring it back and let it tick over. And that's when you get it going. So thanks for watching, guys. That's how you just do a few bits on lawnmower. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I will do a video. This video was actually inspired for William Cadigan. So good luck, William, with your lawnmowers. Thanks for watching the channel. Great support, and yeah, job's a good one, guys, and thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye for now.